Hey everybody, welcome to the GMG review. Today I'm taking a look at the General's Handbook from Games Workshop for Warhammer Age of Sigmar. This is the 2021 edition of the General's Handbook. They were kind enough to send me as a free sample to check out for match play games. Now, this is a very different book. This is actually not what I was expecting when I opened the box and found out what it was and actually got to hold it in my hands. It is a spiral-bound pitch battle profiles. It's much more in common with the 9th and 8th edition tournament pack, chapter approved for Warhammer 40,000, and quite a change from the 2021. The 2021 was a full book and contained cool new stuff for both open play, with a whole Skies of Slaughter like mini game of flying and stuff, narrative play, and included the Anvil of Apotheosis for character creation. There's all kinds of cool stuff in here. What I would say is the General's Handbook 2021 is a shift to more of a gaming book approach. So this is much more what the General's Handbook is. It is almost specifically made for match play. It doesn't update the point values across the entire game for 3rd edition. And that alone means that it is required for playing open play and also for playing narrative play, because they both use point values now. The whole game has gone back to point values. So you do require this for whatever type of games that you play. On top of that, and I would say probably its biggest strength, is you don't actually need anything to play Warhammer Age of Sigmar outside of this set. It contains the complete core rules. It contains all your battle plans, how you build an army for match play, and how you make some of the sort of like conquest tournament sort of decisions when you're building your stuff. It also includes updates for all the endless spells, and some of them are quite significant, like the Chronomantic Cogs, and the stuff from Line Sorcery, like Lokon the Soul Seeker and Shards of the Valgar and stuff like that. And basically is required for playing tournaments. So what's great is it is an A5 scale. You can see that it's not, well, actually it's a bit bigger than A5. The gaming book was an A5 scale, so you can see it's a bit bigger than that. And it does come with all your point values. And probably the handiest thing it comes with is this, which is a punch set for command tokens. You can see there are 2 different sides, or you could use these as objective scoring tokens or objectives, and have the 2 sides be who controls it, which I kind of like. And then all 8 battle tactics from this book are printed in here as chits. And that's a fantastic thing because 1, I never remember them and I hate looking them up, and 2, when you've done one, you can discard it. Now the only problem is they're double-sided, so if you discard one because you did it, you've discarded both all of a sudden, so maybe you can mark them somehow or write on them, I don't know, mark them off somehow to show that you've done one or finished them. But that's a very handy gaming aid for playing, because you do use battle tactics in this package that are different from the battle tactics in the general rulebook for the core book for the game. So let's take a look inside. Obviously, there have been a million gajillion videos on the pitch battle profiles, Reddit threads, all kinds of stuff. This just showed up on Friday here because of shipping. I'm not going to talk about point values. There's a great article on the GW community site. I'll link it in the description for how and why they upped the point values and everything, and kind of their logic behind doing it and their rubric. That explains it better than I could. Basically, 3 things we kind of already knew. The table got smaller, they got rid of War Scroll battalions, and they changed the way you build units with reinforcement. So in order to declutter the table, make games not take forever, and reduce the overall model count in armies in the game, because they spent all of 2nd edition, when stuff wasn't good, making it cheaper, so armies got bigger by default. They've readjusted everything in this book to try and make it so that, generally speaking, you're playing with about the same amount of models and about the same playing surface whenever you play a game. So, bye. We're not talking more about points. I hate talking about points. There are people far more interested in points who will talk about that stuff better than I ever could. So, to war, the realm of the beast. This is an interesting thing, is the book is themed basically around Gur and the conflicts in Gur, and the idea being that this is a seasonal pack. So every year they're going to redo it. Every year it's going to have a different sort of like theme. This year the theme is monsters, obviously, and beasts, because we're in Gur, which is the realm of Gur. I think Gur? I mean, it's a made-up word. So you've got like some history and background for why. Hey, look, here's why we're having tournaments in this area. Cool. About 2 pages. And then the stuff that people who play tournaments actually care about, which is the battle pack. One thing I found super annoying, I was so excited that Match Play had 1,500 point games. They don't include it as a tournament option. Give me my 1,500 point tournaments. It's just 1,000 or 2,000. Oh, just why? Like, it's a really comfortable game size, and you put it in the core book, and then all of a sudden it's just gone from tournaments. Why can't people afford 1,500 point tournaments? I don't get it. Why does that the verboten point value? I just don't understand. It's just one little column. It didn't even take that much more space. It was just one little, like, I'm just gonna write it in with a Sharpie, and we'll do it anyway. There is some new stuff in here though, which people pointed out. Actually, we screwed up because we didn't notice it. Again, it's a call out here in a gray box too. Even coalition units in the battle pack for the pitch battle games for playing tournament games are defined as anything that you pull from a different battle tome that you can play into that battle tome because of like a shared keyword or whatever. So for instance, Slaves to Darkness units that can have the Nurgle keyword in like a Maggotkin book or the Khorne keyword in a Blades of Khorne book, they lose their battle line tag. So everybody else keeps their tags, but you can't have them as battle lines. So that game we played the other day, everyone jumped on us and was like, oh, this is not a legal Maggotkin list anymore. And we were like, oh my God. This book isn't even out yet. Leave us alone. But yeah, basically it was a legal match play game because they'd be battle play and match play, but not in match play tournament games using the coalition units rules. So yeah, let's keep it simple. And then you get your army roster into war. That's the biggest change. And we've got a grand total of 12 instead of 18 as we're in 2020 missions for tournaments. And what's interesting about them is they do have a couple of bonus realm rules for playing in Gore, which is neat. You've got Predators and Prey once per battle round. You score an additional victory point if any enemy monsters were slain in that battle round. That's pretty cool. Seismic Shift at the start of the third battle round. After the players roll off to determine who has the first turn, the player taking the second turn in the battle round can pick an objective marker on the battlefield and remove it from play. So you can kill an objective in the game unless it's the prime objective, because that's one you can't get rid of. And then that's at the start of the third battle round. And then once per battle round, you score an additional victory point if any monsters were killed, which is kind of neat. And then every wizard knows Metamorphosis. It's cast on 5, range 12. If you cast it, pick a friendly hero that's not a monster and that's within range and visible. The hero gains the monster keyword. So very, very cool that they thought of, well, some armies don't really have access to good monsters. Well, just make a dude a monster. I mean, I could see the Crimson Slayer becoming a monster for a round, being like, what up, Teclis, let's do this. And then doing like stomps on them and stuff. Like, that's pretty cool. Or roaring. I like that. And then Realm Command, Feral Roar. You can use this command ability to start the combat phase. The unit receives the command, must be a monster. Until the end of the turn, it's got 0 damage on its damage table. So basically, you can charge back up your monster. And then you get 2 separate core battalions that can be in here. An Alpha Beast pack, which is 2 to 3 monsters. After the has been set up before the first battle round, you can make a normal move to D6 with each unit, so you can move forward basically. And then Hunters of the Heartlands, 2 other units. Expert Underdogs, units from this battalion cannot be picked when you do a monstrous rampage. So no 2+ D3 mortal wounds on them. Kinda neat. So again, this season has 2 bespoke core battalions you can use. And then grand strategies for this one. Sever the head. When the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy. If there's no heroes left, that one's already there. Hold the line. Have battle line units left. Vendetta. These are all from the core book. General's dead. No general dead. Dominating presence. When the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy if there's more units from your starting army on the battlefield than there are from your opponents. Beastmaster. Have more monsters. Have any monsters left from your starting army. Prize Sorcery. Any wizards from your starting army left. I mean, just the techless one. Pillars of Belief. When the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy if there's any priests left. And Predator's Domain. When the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy if you control more terrain features than your opponent does. That's kind of neat. And then starting army is anything that's on the board when you first start off. And then there's the 8 new battle tactics as well. Broken Ranks. Destroy battle line. You get a bonus VP if you do it with a monster. Basically, most of these, you get bonus ones if you do them with monsters. Conquer. Take an objective marker from your opponent. Slay the Warlord. Kill him with a monster for a bonus one. Ferocious Advance, pick 3 of your units and have them run. If all 3 are monsters, you get an additional one. Again, some armies can't score that one to the max. Bring it down, reveal this battle tactic, pick an enemy monster on the battlefield, kill it. If you killed it with a monster, get an additional one. Aggressive Expansion, pick 2 objective markers that are not wholly within your territory and hold them at the end of the turn. Monsters Takeover, when you reveal this battle tactic, pick a monster from your starting army and have them control an objective you didn't control at the end of the turn. And then Savage Spearhead, you complete this battle tactic if there's 2 or more units from your starting army wholly within your opponent's territory at the end of the turn. If 2 or more of those units are monsters, score an additional one. And then look, they define painting, which I find hilarious. Hey, look, this is a painted miniature. This is not a painted miniature. What an age to be alive. Classic method, contrast method, and then battle plans, all 12 of them. So I'm not going to go through these point by point, but they all contain multiple objectives. They're all fairly central, as you can see, because it's a small table. And for the most part, they all use the same scoring, these ITC scoring, which is hold 1, hold 2, hold more. For the core scoring plus your battle tactic for the round. So these are there's a lot of like, they're all kind of a little bit the same. You can have like stuff move where you've got your bonus ones in different places. I don't know, most of the variation comes from where the objectives are deployed and what territory is defined as, because that changes scoring for some of the battle tactics, and that's really it, if you're in table quarters or not. So I mean, there's some stuff with leaders and Ultras of the Beast and a bit of like the wacky stuff at the end here, like the Vice is a bit wacky, same as Tooth and Nail. But for the most part, they're not too out there, and they all score hold 1, hold 2, hold more. So if you just hold to that and then do your secondaries, that's really it. But some of the other ones, like for instance, power numbers is a bit different. Each player scores victory points at the end of their turn, score 2 if you complete any battle tactics. Starting from the second battle round, at the end of each of your turns, the player can destroy 1 or more objectives they control. If the player controlled it, gained control this turn, it's 1. Previous turn, 2. If the player controlled the objective at the end of their turn before last, they score 4. If the player gained control of it in the first battle round and hasn't lost control, you get 8. So this one's not turn by turn. It's like hold them for more and more turns, and then you score more when you finally burn them down. So there's like a lot of like, but it's still stand models in zone and try and hold them for as long as you can, basically. And those are the more wacky ones are here at the end, and we'll see if they gain any popularity. They define what the actual like pitch battle publications are, and then new rules for most endless spells like Horgast, Aether Void Pendulum. Chronomatic cogs changed. You decrease the flow of time. All wizards within 6 can cast an additional spell. That's crazy. It got cheaper too. It's like 45 points. But everybody gets to cast 2 spells, or an extra spell basically if you're within 6 of it. And then it's +1 to charge rolls for units wholly within 18 of this endless spell if you speed up time. And then at the end of the start of the hero phase, if there's a friendly wizard within 6 of the endless spell, you can decide to increase or decrease time. So it's a neat, like, it's a good choice still. You don't reroll saves anymore, but still an interesting choice. The pendulum's still pretty cool, but it's not quite as deadly. After it's moved, roll dice for each unit that's passed across, or that's within 1 at the end, and on 2+ take D3 mortal wounds, not D6 anymore. Emerald Life Swarm's kind of cool. After this endless spell is set up, and after it's moved, the commanding player can pick a unit within 1 inch of it. They can heal up to D3 wounds allocated to that unit, or if no wounds are allocated, they can return number of models slain with a combined wound characteristic of D3 or less. So you can actually bring models back with it now too. And then the good old Geminids, after this endless spell is moved, roll a dice for each unit that has any models passed across, on a 2+ take a mortal wound. In addition, if a mortal wound caused by this ability is allocated to a unit, the unit cannot issue or receive commands. So you can freeze out commands with them now, which is kind of neat. The Ravening Jaws, the end of after the endless spell is moved, pick a unit that has any number of models passed across and roll a number of dice equal to the roll that was made for the move. For each 6, take a mortal wound. So it's a 3d6 move. So 3d6 fishing for 6s. Soul Snare Shackles, units within 6 of this endless spell cannot run or attempt to charge. That is crazy. In addition, at the start of the movement phase, roll a dice for each unit within 6 of the endless spell. On a 6, they take D3 mortal wounds. The Gravetide, which used to be kind of terrible. After this endless spell is moved, roll for each unit that has any models passed across. Roll a number of dice equal to the number of models in that unit. For each 6, take a mortal wound. That's great. Big units, I mean, there'll be less big units in the game, but you can clip a number of units and roll dice for every single one of those models, which is neat. Gravetide is doing better. And then the Burning Head, after this endless spell is moved, if any units are within 1, roll a dice. On a 2+, the unit suffers D3 mortal wounds, then the endless spell is removed from play. It blows up, which is interesting. There's no reroll 1s anymore either. It's just blow up. But it's for every unit within 1. I mean, it should be cheap, I guess. Spell Portal. Once per turn, if a wizard successfully casts a spell within 1 inch of the endless spell, the range, visibility, and effects can be measured from the endless spell instead of the caster. In addition, once per turn, when a predatory endless spell moves within 6, within 6 is picked to move, the commanding player of that predatory spell can remove it and place it within 6 of the other endless spell. But it counts as having moved. So you can basically teleport endless spells through it. The old Soul Scream bridge, start of the movement phase. The player whose turn it is taking place can remove a friendly unit with wholly within 6 and deploy it wholly within 6 the other side. And they can be 18 inches apart now. That's crazy. So both pieces have to be wholly within 18 inches of the casters. They can be either side of them, basically. And they can't move afterwards. The Shards of Valgar, after some of the spell is moved, draw a straight line between the closest point of each part of the spell. Each unit that has any models passed across by that line is ensnared until the end of the turn and have their move and can't fly. And then Laucom the Soul Seeker. Before the commanding player moves on the spell, they can pick one friendly wizard wholly within 3. So not unit anymore. Remove the wizard from the battlefield. And then after it's been moved, set him up within 3. After the wizard's been set up, it suffers a mortal wound because you have to pay him, the ferryman, and the wizard cannot make a normal move or run in the following movement phase. That's pretty interesting. It can move 18 inches. I mean, some wizards are super slow, but it's only wizards, and you can never move Gotrek with it, obviously. And the rules, and we're on to the rules. So it's the core rules for the game, same as printed in the core book. No differences. All the way through to battalions, allegiance abilities, and universal enhancements. So everything you would need basically to set up and play one of the games in this book are in here, and then a rules index. And that's it. So here we go, GHB 2021. And it is very much the gaming book. So I guess GHB is dead, all hell the new GHB. It's a very different take on it. I'll be honest, I'm not, disappointed is the wrong word. It's more like when the GHB shows up every year, the General's Handbook, sorry to use abbreviations people might not know, I'm expecting a big, you know, plate of tacos. Let's use a metaphor. Is it a metaphor? It's a simile, maybe? I'm expecting a big fat plate of tacos, but this year people were like, a big plate of tacos, it'll be great, we're gonna have some tacos, it'll be wonderful. Big food truck, greasy tacos, they're the best. And they showed up with a taco salad. And I mean, it's good for me, it's better for me probably. It's very clean, it's very well put together, but it's just not what I was expecting. So I'm a bit surprised. I don't know where they're gonna split off that cool, wacky, fun stuff that was in the original General's Handbook for open play and narrative play. This is very much a tournament aid, like the gaming book was. And while I do understand that is probably most of the demand, like, most of the people that bought the original General's Handbook probably used the match play stuff in it and chucked the rest away. I do think it was important to have the other stuff in there. I feel like the 3 ways to play thing, if that's very much an Age of Sigmar thing. It came from Age of Sigmar 1st edition, moved into 40K in 8th edition, and has become like a mantra. This is one way to play versus 3 ways to play. And almost every core publication for Warhammer has had those like something for everybody kind of like mentality to it. And it's just interesting to see this be that different basically from like a publication wise, going from its original incarnation in 2016 through to now. So again, not necessarily a good thing or a bad thing, just not what I was expecting and different. So it's a bit of a shift, obviously. It's very much just the Warhammer Age of Sigmar version of the chapter approved book, which I don't think is bad. It's very different. It's 40K kind of bleeding in. But I mean, 40K is bleeding into Age of Sigmar in general right now. We've got ITC scoring coming in for the way that match play games work. We have more restrictive army building formats like detachments and stuff like that, encouraging taking units in certain types. The being at events, or like the 2 games being around each other, I think at events, and those people being playtesters and in like the design sphere now, it's bleeding them together, I feel like. And this is very much, as a publication, I would say evidence of that, where you have something that looks like more like a 40K book than the last 2 editions of General's Handbooks look like. So anyway, big thanks for watching. We'll see you for more GMG reviews in the future. Fun and Ash. Have a good one. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you want to support the channel, of course, like and subscribe and hit the little bell below to get notifications when I post future content. I do post stuff 7 days a week. If you want to support the channel further, you can, of course, buy a t-shirt through Spreadshirts, buy a measuring gauge or objective markers from Death Ray Designs, or, of course, most importantly, there is Patreon. Patreon is what makes all this possible, keeps the lights on, pays for the studio costs, pays for the equipment, model costs, and everything else, and most importantly, puts food in my kids' bellies and a roof over their heads. Big thanks to everyone, past, future, who supported me. I do this stuff because of you guys, and of course, I will continue doing it as long as I can.